This is very, and I cannot stress this enough, very good. But at the same time, it's also very, and I cannot stress this enough, very bad. You can probably tell or at least hear the panic in my voice, and the reason for that is because I'm genuinely worried. I know when we first start getting into this video that some of you are going to say that, Matt, you're tripping, and click off, but if you don't watch any of my videos till the end, just please watch all of this one so you can understand. It's going to sound good on paper, and when you hear it, the first reaction you're going to have is that it's great, but you got to look into the details. And oh yeah, double upload, Matt in the building. As you guys know, anytime we double upload on this channel, it's some important stuff. Also news, Matt in the building. You know what we're going to talk about, or you're about to. So if you're new to the channel, like the content, you know what to do. Without further ado, let's get into this video. It has just now, within the past 35 to 40 minutes as to when I'm speaking, been announced that college athletes, D1, D2, D3, every single one from basketball, football, baseball, etc. will be able to make money and benefit from their quote-unquote name, likeness, and image starting at midnight tonight. So by the time we all wake up tomorrow, all these athletes will now be, well, some of them will be making money from their name, and they will also be in college. Dare I say this is revolutionary? I mean, this is a huge step for college athletes because this may arguably be the biggest change in the NCAA in 20 to 25 years. I'm going to be very aggressive and passionate in this video because this is huge. I think we all know the magnitude and how big this is, but I don't think you understand how enormous it is. This changes recruiting dramatically, and we'll touch on that in just a second. It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't have to sit up here and bore you with the information of how they're going to get paid. Basically, gonna be like an NBA athlete. They can sign autographs for money, they can sign agents, and all that good stuff. And like I said, it sounds great. I'm all for these athletes getting money for their ability because these colleges, they're getting paid for it, so the athletes, they should be getting some of the money. But however, there is a big and a lot of big problems that comes along with this, and let's just get into it. I'll just use this one for an example, but UConn announced that starting on July 12th, their athletes can sign endorsement contracts and hire agents. That's going to be the remedy for every state and every college, but that's just when they're announcing their date. And oh yeah, before I forget to mention, this isn't 1 to 2 states. Every state in the United States can do this and it's legalized. So there's no real recruiting advantage as far as, say, if you go to California, you can get paid, and if you go to Tennessee, you can't. Every state and every player can get paid. Let's just use Kentucky for an example because they're one of the biggest names in all of college basketball. I'm going to ask you guys a question because I want you to really think about this and riddle me this. Do you think Kentucky will have better agents and better endorsement deals to sign than a program like North Dakota State? I think we can all agree that Kentucky is going to have better endorsement deals and better agents. That's just obvious. That right there is a start to the problems because that's a major recruiting advantage because money is what these athletes want. If you go to Kentucky, you're going to have way more endorsement deals and way better endorsement deals to sign. And also too, they're going to have better agents, so these major D1 programs are going to have a huge recruiting advantage, and it's going to mess up a lot of recruiting, at least in my opinion. And also what's going to happen too, these boosters at these programs are going to be paying these kids money too. If you're confused and you don't know what a booster is, it's basically an alumni that went to Kentucky that's a millionaire. So what's going to happen is, let's say Rick is a millionaire, and Rick's not any person, he's just a random guy I made up. He went to Kentucky and he wants Mikey Williams to go to Kentucky. Well, he's going to hit up Mikey and say, hey, if you can sign a pair of shoes for me, I'll give you $300,000 if you commit to Kentucky. I hope that makes sense. Basically, in other terms, I try to dumb it down as easy and understandable as possible. These boosters and alumni big time programs are going to pay these players to commit and play for their schools. If you don't think that's going to happen, you are wrong because it will. And if I'm being quite honest with you, I think that's been going on, but that doesn't matter anymore. That's a different conversation. conversation for a different day. Same thing for Alabama football. If you thought they were already getting a bunch of 5-star recruits, just wait till the next few years. There's going to be these rich alumni that went to Alabama football, and they're going to hit up these 4 and 5-star recruits and say, hey, if you come here, I'll get you to sign an autograph for me and I'll pay you $500,000. That way it's quote unquote legal. I know what some of you are thinking, yo Matt, what's wrong with that? They should get paid for their likeness, and that's what this is for. Yes, I agree, but from a fair and a advantage standpoint in recruiting, it's not going to be good. The reason we love college basketball is because anybody can win on any given night, whereas in football, Alabama's going to run over the competition every single year. In football, we know the 3 to 4 teams that are going to make the playoff every single year. But for basketball, it's almost impossible to predict the Final Four. Now what's going to happen is that these top tier teams like Duke, Kentucky, and Kansas are going to start to separate themselves even more from the smaller D1 schools. You're going to see less situations of 4 and 5-star recruits going to smaller schools, and that's how it looks. And I know what some of you may be thinking. Yo Matt, you're crazy. People aren't going to pay these kids $500,000 for their autograph. Well, I thought some of you might say or think that, so I'm going to use this for an example. Literally 30 minutes after it was announced that athletes can get paid for their name and likeness, a mom and pop basically restaurant announced that if they can get recruits to stay in the state, they are going to pay players. I'm going to throw the picture up on the screen, but the restaurant is called Runza and it's in Nebraska. So if an athlete commits to Nebraska, they're going to give them a deal where they can eat there for an entire year for free. And that only happened 30 minutes after this was all cleared. So I can't imagine what's going to happen in the next couple of days and weeks. We're talking about kids too. The recruiting process goes on with 15, 16, 17, and sometimes 18-year-old kids. So imagine at the age of 16 and 17, you have people bribing you to stay in state and go to a college for millions of dollars. I'm very intrigued and curious as to how this will play out, but I can almost assume that, let's say for an example, a player commits to go to Kentucky for basketball, they can go anywhere they want to eat and they're going to get free meals. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. I mean, it's up for debate, but here's one thing that will happen. A bunch of these athletes, especially the good ones, will start to develop a major ego. They're going to think they're celebrities, and I mean some of them are, but they're going to think they could go in anywhere and they deserve a free meal. Once they get one free meal or sign an autograph for a couple $1,000s, they're going to expect people to bow down to them, and that shouldn't happen. And speaking more on recruiting, it will no longer be athletes looking out for the best program and best fit for them, but now they will be looking at the best program that will give them the most amount of money. Plain and simple. All of these athletes are going to be offered these contracts, and basically it's going to be a bidding war. Whoever offers them the most money will be the school they more likely go to, and you can't blame the kid. We also will have contracts involved, and this is where things are going to get really interesting because now some of these athletes are going to sign, you know how rappers sign their label deal, record deal, and they hate it and can't get out? That's how it's going to be for these college athletes. Whether you think this will work out for the best or not, that's up for debate and you're entitled to your own opinion, but I think I speak for everyone when I say this. We know this isn't going to go smoothly and it's going to be very rough. I think for your best of the best athletes, like let's say, Jalen Suggs in college and Trevor Lawrence who played at Clemson, they would have cashed down on this. I only feel like that maybe the top 1% and the most famous players, like you're talking about 10 to 15 college basketball players, will benefit from this. Nobody's really going to care for an autograph from a role player, even a starter who's only averaging 10 points per game, because nobody cares about them. I think a lot of these athletes are thinking they're about to cash out on this, when in reality, most of them aren't even going to make as much money as they think they will. The only real players, for example, that are going to make real money from this in college basketball standards would be the star point guard or star shooting guard, and for football standards would be the star quarterback, maybe a defensive player, and the star running back. We're also going to see players try to start up their own clothing brand, but I don't really see that succeeding, at least in my eyes. I don't think your 3-star recruits and the role players, they're going to receive too much money or beneficiary gain from this at all. The biggest impact on this will definitely be recruiting, because those 4 and 5-star recruits, for example, let's say Bronny James and Mikey Williams, will be offered and bribed so many things and so much money. This also changes one very big thing. Now athletes, we'll probably see no athletes at all go overseas because there's almost no point. The only reason we saw Jalen Green go to the G League last year was so he could make money like $500,000. If they would have implicated this last year, he would have went to college and may have been the #1 pick. Going to college to play basketball is the best route because you get the most exposure. But now the game has changed because you can get exposure and get paid. And I want you to understand this. There's going to be a huge pay gap. I think you're going to see players like Mikey Williams. He may make up to $5 million a year in college, whereas the second best player on his team may only make $50,000. If you're not the first, second, or third best player on your team, you're not going to be making that much money, and that's how I believe. I want to go over this too because technically these schools quote unquote cannot pay them and they're quote unquote making money off of their name and likeness, but it's not like that. They can get paid for an autograph, so like I said, people that attended that school are going to bribe these kids with money, basically paying them. It's about to be a different world. You're going to see these 4- and 5-star recruits now with Lamborghinis and the nicest cars in the game. Years ago, when we saw a college athlete with a beat up 2012 Honda, we thought he was getting paid. But imagine now. And also, let me clarify this. I think some of you may be perceiving this wrong. I'm not mad and I'm not hating on the players because I'm happy for these kids. If you can get paid for an autograph, all power to you, and I want these kids to get paid. But what I'm saying is this is bad for the NCAA and this is bad for colleges because you're going to see players bribed. You're going to start to see the best of the best schools of college basketball, football, and baseball separate themselves even more. I think it's bad for smaller Division I programs. The bottom line is college athletes, they've been getting paid. It's been under the table, but most of them have been getting paid. It's just now legal. And what's really sad about this is that the athletes that went to college 5 to 10 years ago, because I'm sure they would have got money for this, and I can only imagine how they feel. I'm happy and glad for the players, but this is going to be a very big mess. 2 to 3 years ago, let's say you and your dad went to a football or basketball game, or just anywhere in public, and you saw someone that played on that team. The only thing you could do was ask him for a picture. You wouldn't dare ask him for his autograph. Or let me backtrack on that. You would ask him for his autograph, but he wasn't going to be asking for money. Now we may see some of these players only signing autographs. Think about this. Only signing the autographs for money. That way they can value their autograph. Kind of very similar to the Supreme drop. If there's only limited amount of autographs by that said player, it's going to increase the value of his signature. Holy crap, I just thought about that. We may see these top athletes not sign autographs for free anymore. You can say they should or shouldn't, but it's a business decision, and if I was them, I wouldn't sign them for free. The more autographs you sign, the more supply there is, so it means they're not going to be as valuable, and it's not going to make you as much money. Wow, that right there is interesting, and I just thought about that, but that's going to be a very intriguing situation. See how it plays out. And last but not least, I wanted to throw this in there too. We may see some of these college athletes start up YouTube channels. It's starting to become popular. The main reason they haven't done it just yet is because they can't make money. So there's no reason for them to film and edit a video if they're not going to get paid for it. But now they can do that. There's so much to this situation and you could talk about it for days. I'm going to just leave it at that. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this. But with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. If you're new to the channel, what are you doing? Join the family. Hit that subscribe button and leave a like for more. And as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.